Oh, I do.
All good? Awesome. Yeah, Antoine, I think you hit the nail on the head. Early stages when I started the company along with my co-founder, it was a lot of Google searches and a lot of YouTube University, right? And so I would say, looking back now, when it came to finding these outlets for help, they were always there, right? They were always there, but the education and the amount of knowledge that is put out on Google, on YouTube, isn't adequate enough to really running a company full time. And so it took a lot of trial and error. Like Arlene said, about 6 months after we had started the company and we got our first location, we were able to get in the EVF program, which is a great program that really opened up my eyes to all the avenues that small business owners can take. It was something that I had not seen from, once again, my past experience as an in business. I was, pretty much green when it came to anything business related. And so being able to finally find my first avenue, which was the EVF program, really opened up those doors and said, hey, if you need help, with legal, if you need help with accounting, here's some different avenues that you can take. And I think that's what it really took me, was getting out there, putting myself out there, being able to get into these programs to see how many, available opportunities there are for small businesses.
And just one follow-up question. How long did it take you to transition from YouTube University to tapping into some of these local resources?
Oh wow. So yeah, it was probably a good 6 months.
Wow.
And
Okay.
Looking back now too, I made a lot of mistakes in those first 6 months that in hindsight, if I would have been within a program or would have worked with the SBA before, I probably would not have made those same mistakes. So yeah, it was definitely a school of hard knocks for the first 6 months, but the opportunity of the EVF program definitely changed things and put us in the right direction.
Well, I would love to bring in Lourdes on this point. I know we're kind of jumping around here, but wanted to just talk about kind of the role that educational institutions play in supporting and nurturing, these small businesses and entrepreneurs here in Fort Worth. So just wanted to speak briefly on that. Kind of what are your thoughts? What role does educational institutions play?
I think we play a tremendous role, right? I think that, to Brett's point, one of the things that I have always sort of screamed from the top of the mountain is that people that are in business are not always your entrepreneurs. It takes all different kinds of people with all different kinds of ideas and all different types of background to do entrepreneurship. And so as educational institutions, one of our goals should be to try and reach all of them, right? And it's as a community college specifically, we are in touch with workforce, probably more so than the 4 years. So we should be tapping into our workforce students who are aspiring to eventually utilize their skill set that they've developed through our programs to start a business. We should tap into them. We should give them the resources. We should give them the tools. And that's really what I have been so happy about with the foundation and the board agreeing to continue this program, because it gives us that opportunity to knock on those doors and go to those programs and say, hey, if you have an idea, if you want to do this, we have help. We have seed funding, we have educational opportunity, and we have mentorship to provide you with. And so come in and do that. So I think that we play a tremendous role. Here at TCC, we offer both a credit program, which is we're at the side of the house that I started out with, and then through the EVF, we now offer a sort of a non-traditional program in terms of education. And then we have in about 3 or 4 months, we'll launch what we're calling Entrepreneurship 101 series, which is a series of workshops that anybody in the community can join, anybody in the community can come to. Ms. Pena is here, and we hope to tap into her expertise in social media marketing to help us with some of those sessions, some of those workshops. But it's really about, again, what you guys were just talking about, which is providing resources to people, helping them in those areas that maybe that they don't have the expertise, and they don't want to become the expert on social media, but they need to have sufficient knowledge to be able to operate their business, right?
Absolutely. And I think I have a kind of follow-up question there, because we talk about the barriers to entry, barriers for startups when they're getting going. What might be some issues or misconceptions that folks might have in working with the educational institution? I know some folks might not even think about, connecting with the community college or universities, things like that. But what are some things that you can, just dispel those myths, that are out there and, dealing with, educational institutions?
Absolutely. I think that sometimes they think that we're just workforce, or sometimes they think we're just for, we're going to the transfer portal for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both.
Yeah.
Right. We're both. So, and we are also partner with the SBDC, right? The SBDC lives in our college here at Tarrant County College. It lives in Dallas County College. Yep. And so we also have immediate resources readily available. So it's not just about the transfer student or the student that wants to gain. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Brent is a graduate of our Fire Service Academy, right? So he was that student that went through a workforce program, went straight to work, worked for 8 years in one of the busiest firehouses in the county, and he's now a small business owner, right? This is sort of what we want to see, and I think that that's something that oftentimes gets missed as far as what the community college does, or even 4 years institutions. TCU, if you want, if the goal, sometimes we will have a goal and they'll come to us and they'll say, my goal is ultimately to get my bachelor's. I want to get my bachelor's before I own my business. And that's great, right? That's your personal goal. That's what you want to do. That's wonderful. TCU has a phenomenal entrepreneurship program if that is your goal, right? So you can start out with us, transfer to TCU. They have a great program. Texas Wesleyan has Dr. Megan Whitman. She's also part of GEW this week. They have a really good women entrepreneurship program. So there's a lot of opportunity. And I think that, as you say, Antoine, sometimes people think of us as one or the other, and we're not one or the other. We offer all of it. Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I want to shout it from the mountaintop. Come, regardless of your discipline, come see us. Come explore what we have to offer. We have a lot of resources available. We partner with SCORE, we partner with SBDC, we work in collaboration with those organizations, and we can afford to put you in touch and really give you a good entryway to those resources.
That's excellent. Thank you, Lourdes. You guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to kind of reaffirm what Lourdes said. Without TCC, I would not have become a fireman because I needed the certifications and the skills to get there. I would not have been with Arlington. I would have not been able to, continue progressing our company. And then too, I am currently working on a 4-year degree, and without TCC, I wouldn't have had anywhere to start. And so I think it's, like you said, it's very important. And I don't even think I realized how large of a realm TCC covers, and how many ways it can not only kickstart careers, but lives in general. I think it's an awesome opportunity to have TCC, is what it is today for anybody looking to further their career, business, or personal goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, just that whole progression planning, the resources that are in place, that's huge. And to kind of go a little bit deeper into kind of the TCC support and services. Lourdes, I know you talked about, TCC being inclusive, having all these services, supporting all of these companies. But from you guys' perspective, how inclusive really is that community, for, entrepreneurs of diverse backgrounds? What does that really look like? And if you've had any challenges or barriers that you ran into head on, talk about that. So we kind of get an understanding of, what does that look like for everyday entrepreneur, you've been a little bit more experienced in working with the program, but just kind of give us some insight into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from my perspective, TCC makes all of these programs obtainable for anybody. I came from a normal middle to low class community and family, and without TCC and the ability for them to provide these low cost classes, low cost programs, free programs through the EVF, normal lower middle class communities aren't going to have the same ability for education as somebody who may be able to get in TCU a little easier, SMU or DBU, places like that. And not saying that's a good or a bad thing. It's it's a Kickstarter, you know, it's that match that starts the fire, and this is what TCC is.
Gotcha. Arlene?
I have less experience with TCC. I know that in order to hire me, my job back home in New York City said that we need a college that's comparable to us. And I had to come here to do my employment verification.
Okay.
So quickly I learned that this was like kind of like a hub, a center for different things. But I had not known about the business programs and so on. But typically colleges in New York especially are tied in with the SBA and have a small office there for the business advisors and so on and so forth. So I think I would have eventually known, but certainly they're on social media. I just hadn't come across it in my first year.
Okay.
So I'm really grateful.
So, when we're talking about, TCC, and let's broaden it to Fort Worth even, is that an inclusive community for entrepreneurs? Are there some gaps that still need to be filled, and what gaps are those that we can identify today?
Let's start.
I have some opinions on that, but I'm going to keep it short.
Okay.
So I'm in the HEB area, and I think for, small business owners that are very, very new, startups like myself, I think that in order to help them learn about your resources, you should go where they are.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of business owners are on Clubhouse. I don't know that Fort Worth, chamber or something like that they're on Clubhouse, right? And I know certainly you need more resources. I think, SBDC and all these other agencies that try to help us need more resources in order to reach out to people like us so that we know about them. But I think, as far as the chambers go, I think, you have to pick one to join. And honestly, I haven't joined any because I see good resources at this one and I see some good ones at Colleyville Chamber. And I wish they would do some things together so that people in the community can make a more informed decision. In this way, you will automatically draw in a more diverse group, because in Colleyville, that's going to be a slightly different demographic. Hearst, Euless, Bedford, again, Latino, Black business owners. So, and Fort Worth is massive. It's a bigger chamber, is from what I gathered. And so it's hard to just pick one because some have better events than others. So I'm just giving that as an example of ways in which we could be more inclusive with our events, with maybe some online things. If you get more participation on when you do things online, then do more online.
Yep.
Don't make it more difficult for the business owners that are struggling to be the market person, struggling to be their own CPA for a while, until they get their money up, right? Don't make it more hard for that person that is the cook, bottle wash, and all of that to get your services, to obtain your services. Yep. And that's my short philosophy on that.
Yeah, it seems like, that's great. It seems like the takeaway is like collaboration, that's huge. Collaboration and the crossover of resources that might be here in Colleyville, might be here in Hearst, might be here in Fort Worth proper. So, guys, we have a new panelist here on the board this morning. If you could just introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll jump right back into some of these questions.
Oh, okay. Justin McLaughlin and Zinnia Roastery.
Okay.
So.
A little bit more. Give us some more. Give us some more.
You're not shy, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we roast specialty coffee here locally, here in Fort Worth, and so we've been at that now for about 2 years.
Okay. Excellent. So let's just jump right back into it. We'll go on your end. So in looking at, the resources, the community of entrepreneurs, small business here, what can be improved, here in the Fort Worth, TCC proper? What are some areas of improvement, gaps we can fill?
I just kind of, piggyback the last kind of statement is just, collaboration. As far as, I guess, when you're in Fort Worth particular, I feel like for the smaller businesses, smaller companies, there aren't a lot of resources available from like the municipal perspective. Like you can't really, go to the city and say, as a small business, there aren't a lot of resources available. And so just more collaboration, as Arlene was talking about, between maybe whatever those entities are that just kind of put more of an emphasis on supporting smaller businesses.
Gotcha. Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say bridging the gap between big and small business. I think that's huge, and we were talking about it earlier. Commerce and, business in general, it's an ecosystem. And, every part of that, ecosystem has to work to stay alive, right? And so just being able to, from networking to doing business with the bigger businesses and vice versa, I wouldn't say there's, the best way to explain it is there's avenues, but those avenues are very difficult to get into that I've found. And finding those usually take connections through people higher up. And I see a larger divide now between big and small businesses, and it's not as easy to work with them. It's kind of the good old boy system, right? And, breaking down the barriers of that are really big. It's important. And, I think it's vital to the ecosystem of Fort Worth when we're talking about business.
You hit a pretty big nail on the head right there, Brent. Kind of the good old boy system. I think there's always conversation about it's not what you know, but who you know. And a lot of times the who you know will get you much further than, the skills and traits qualification that you're bringing to the table. So, I'm a Dallas native, but Fort Worth is right down the road. But you see kind of those entities, institutions, groups that have a very selective, process for you to get in, for you to interact with them. So, Arlene, if you could tell us a little bit about this kind of what you know, who you know, interacting with this good old boys club, and how can we, bridge that gap? How can we,
favorite topic.
Favorite topic. Here we go.
So just tell me when you want me to
Go ahead. Got 30 minutes now.
Okay, I'm gonna give one really good example. So, Justin, for example, he has great coffee. I don't drink coffee. I order his coffee for my friends that love coffee. They all give him great reviews. They love it. Justin, a long time ago, could have been already in a college. He could be right here in TCC. TCC could be carrying his coffee. Why hasn't that been connected? I don't know. I'm a career consultant and business consultant. I do mostly career consulting, where I speak to different groups. I especially want to get to groups that are working families who are on government assistance programs, so TANF and other programs. And I do know how to apply for government contracts, go in and find solicitations and do all of that, right? Now, I don't have an abundance of time to continually apply to them. However, I find that even in different agencies' efforts to help small businesses, for example, the SBA put out on their website as subcontracting opportunities and so on. But if you're a business owner, you're like, this is great, this is wonderful. But if you don't know, you're gonna apply and think that you have maybe more chances than you do. These the companies who are listed on that particular website under those opportunities are companies who are in violation of their doing subcontracting plans, right? And we all know government contracting is kind of the next big wave. I think that's the next big thing that more small businesses will become more aware of, and then they'll be looking to the SBA and SBDC score to teach them more about it. But I'm not sure that they're ready yet, right? Because while that is a good faith effort, right, to put out subcontracting opportunities on the SBA website, small businesses that know less about government contracting are going to think that these are great companies that really want to help them, but these are companies that are already in violation, and this is their slap on the wrist. They had to post their opportunities on the SBA website for you and I, and to look at it. And then, so what is the likelihood that then those same companies are going to turn around and treat us well, pay us on time, right? maybe 60 days is good with the government, but maybe it'll be 90 days or 120 days with these kind of companies. So knowing that you're doing that purposely to try to help, but is it really helping? And I would be very interested in the statistics that come out of it maybe next year or the year after. I know they'll have to collect some kind of statistics to see how many businesses it actually helped. So that's just one example of the disconnect with saying you're trying to help, but the application of it is like, I don't know, like who can connect Justin to the college? Well, he needs to get a government contract. He needs to be a subcontractor under a big business like Brent was talking about. And there's still a big disconnect. There's large businesses posing as small businesses, and there's not a lot of reprimanding for it. And I understand why. I know the SBA definitely wants to always support business, right? Small business, large business. But when there's no reprimand, things run amok.
Yeah.
And it just continues.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add to it. I think, if big business were to utilize small business, they would see the quality of their products and service to be tenfold better than any other commercial or big business product and service. A good example of that is Justin here. What was it, 2 weeks ago? You got a phone call from a very large hotel in Dallas. They said, hey, we need 100 pounds of ground coffee in 2 or 3 days. And not only was Justin in another state, but he pulled a 24-hour shift, hand grinding all of those beans to get it to them in the amount of time. And I don't know any large company, you don't see Maxwell House providing service like that and pulling 24-hour shifts. And so, just getting it out there, some of the hardest workers I've met over the last 2 years are small business owners, and it's because we're dependent on ourselves. There's nobody else to depend on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I see the memes all the time. It's like the small business owner wearing so many hats, doing everything. And, you would think that there's some support there. And there is, like you're saying, but the education to know where it is, where to go, and to navigate that seems to be an issue. Did you have anything to share on that as well?
No, I just think, it's this opportunity sometimes to bridge the gap, as Brent was talking about, like in order to, I guess, get in front of someone, right, that can make that decision or choice for you, in so many ways. And I don't know if it's like that everywhere, but like having some kind of higher up connection is like your only way in. So what do I mean? Like if I, as a small business, want to connect with a bigger business, then like I need, a city council member, somebody like to usher me in that place to be like, hey, he's all right. Like do business with him. Like I can have the credentials on paper, like whatever certifications, the stuff that I've been taught to do through these programs and entities, because I'm like a linear learner, right? I've been through college and all that. So it's like, okay, I do this, do that, do this, and I should expect this outcome, and it's not what takes place. Man. And then in order for me even to get in the conversation, like, hey, I can sell this, I can sell myself, but I'm not even, like, it's hard for me to get the opportunity to get in front of somebody at that caliber. It's like, hey, I'm gonna give this guy a shot or this company a shot. And I don't know, like when we're talking about bridging gaps, for the last year specifically, I haven't figured out, how to make that happen, how to make that possible.
Yeah, and I think even last year or year and a half with COVID going on, like that gap is probably even widened for a lot of these small businesses. I don't know if you guys could, I know that's not one of the questions, but what effect has that had on your business, and what effect do you see that having on businesses connecting to those resources that should be available and, to help those companies grow? Just throw it out there.
My business increased during COVID, but all of my speaking gigs were canceled.
Right.
So being a career consultant, this is what I talk about, right? And it works almost similarly in the business world. You want to know someone, but if you don't, you want a career consultant on your side who knows the system, right? So all my speaking gigs were canceled. And then I pivoted to the writing side of it because I knew, okay, people will be looking for jobs, potentially even more. So I just need to tap into those people that market that really want to do something about it now. Because even when people see that they're in a rut, they tend to still think they can do it themselves and it'll be fine. And then they spend a year looking for a job. So my business actually went up after a couple of months. So I can't complain.
Okay.
And even more so with EEVF, being afforded the opportunity to
Right.
now, hire people that did social media marketing and, well, just one person. I usually do it myself, but just be able to get the things that I needed to get and hire people, the specialists that do this stuff all the time and not pretend to wear their hat.
Yeah.
And effectively, because it's not, when you're doing everything on your own. Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So we started, it was January of 2020. I believe that was the correct date. And COVID landed that February. And so I would say the best way to explain it would be stagnant growth in a way. We were getting clients, we were getting work. A lot of what we do is federally, state, and local regulated. So there are things that couldn't be passed up on, right? And a lot of the services we provide. So it wasn't the best spark to grow a company in, right? And I think it helped, but it hurt in a way because I feel like there was even a larger divide between small business and big business during COVID because we started relying, in our own classes. Big business relied on them, and small business, relied on us, right? And so, I think that created a little more of a divide. But on the opposite side, it kind of put larger companies and our competitors in check on growth. And so while it, stopped us from growing anymore, so did with the larger companies, and it allowed us to compete a little more in a roundabout way. I would say
Gotcha.
that would be kind of my silver lining to COVID.
There we go.
I like what you said about stagnant growth because I feel like COVID blessed me in one way and then cursed me in some other way. So like it blessed me because honestly, I was considering doing like a brick and mortar, and because of like COVID, it allowed for like the training and everything that I needed to learn how to roast coffee beans and all that. It became cheaper and then more accessible. It became virtual rather than me having to fly to California and all that stuff. So that part was cool. The bad part is like the people part because then we're scared, right, to gather, congregate, and all. And one thing we all probably recognize is like networking is beneficial and huge for what we're trying to do, getting out in front of people, especially like with me. I'm a volume person, so I need to sell volumes of pounds of coffee to make what I need to make. And so in order for me to make those volumes, I got to get out in front of people to encourage and sell more people and things like that. And so the stagnant growth, that part hits heavy with me because like seriously, it's kind of like because of the Rona and all that stuff that was going on, just my comfort level as a dad, as a husband, of being out there in front of all these folks, and then everything else that was going on, it kind of like limited, I guess, the acceleration of growth for us.
Nice.
And so now it's like been since this summer that we're like revving up more of like the in-person, that type of stuff, whereas like last year was like,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, speaking with a lot of entrepreneurs and communities, like COVID has just made folks kind of re-strategize.
Correct.
Like, business might have been this way, but now we have to refocus, like you said, a little bit more virtual now. How do we look at the entrepreneur ecosystem? Let's talk about Fort Worth first. How do we see that evolving in the next few years? What trinkets, what gaps do you think that can be filled? What resources do you think should be introduced? Just a broad answer. Where do you see us going in the next few years, kind of the entrepreneur ecosystem out here?
So I would say, and I've seen a lot of statistics and numbers on this, and I believe I've talked with Rodney and Lourdes about this. But during COVID, we had a large rise of small businesses being created. A lot of people had the amount of time to kind of follow their dreams and, start from the ground level. And so I think we're going to start seeing more of a need in the next year or two for these small businesses needing these resources, funding, education, training to continue to grow and succeed, because now everybody's starting to get back out into the community, starting to rely more on each other, and we're going to start, growing our companies.
Yeah.
And so, something that I would like to see, which is already being done with the EVF program with Rodney and Lourdes, is, expanding the amount of funding that other entrepreneurs behind us are going to receive. And along with that, it's going to allow for more connections, more education to continue to grow. And so I think we're in a really good kind of Petri dish right now to continue to grow and expand.
deal. Good
Be
deal.
careful what you wish for.
And Lourdes, I'll definitely want to bring you in on this question as well, but you go right ahead.
Yeah, there's a ton of potential. I feel like, of course, just the energy and the growth that has taken place for the city of Fort Worth. But and I think Arlene kind of mentioned it. Even within the city, like the silos, like between the chamber, Spark Yard, the city, the county. Like there's a lot of different pockets and silos. So it's like, in order for us, if we're talking specific to this city, in order for us as like entrepreneurs who operate within the city, again, to kind of get that support holistically, then it has to just be more than like TCC and the small business development. You see what I'm saying? Like they're doing a wonderful work and they've done a bang out job supporting us. So like, who else is going to step to the table and say, you know what, like they started with this amount, they've raised this much amount. Like the county's doing this for the city, like for folks who's operating here, like who else can kind of, step up and help, So anyways, there's the flip side to the growth and everything that's happening. And there's some wonderful things taking place in this awesome city. But then also like, how can we bridge some of those silos?
For sure. And I definitely want to come back to that. That's a great point, Justin. Arlene?
I think we should definitely see some of those agencies putting out funding for business incubators. I think that's very necessary. I've also seen some statistics on startups that basically, I think about 70% contribute to the job creation.
80%.
There we go.
Is it
Yeah, we
80,
talked about that.
80% now,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's astounding. But then we also see with Black entrepreneurs that there's a high percentage of them that don't have more than 10 employees or so on. So there's a disconnect, right? And I think the first thing to do, first of all, there needs to be more training on what the first things to do are for your business, right? But I think some of the first things to do would be to get your team, or think about, who do I know? Who should be my web developer? Who should be, I had that in the beginning, and then he ghosted me. And then I needed to get another, web developer, but thankfully I was already, in the EEVF program, and they would give me tips on finding them and so on and so forth. So I have another one. But, I think that is a real big issue. We need more innovation. And how do you get more innovation? Well, you incentivize it, right? Other cities are doing this. They're incentivizing just having an idea, right? And because the reality is that many employees are in companies stagnant. They're not offering up new ideas for whatever different reasons. Maybe they're happy at the company, but they just don't have any new ideas. But some people are not happy at their companies, and so they're not going to give you their new ideas. They're going to take it and make a business out of it.
Gotcha. Once
they leave in the sweet by and by. So I think that business incubators are the future, definitely with Facebook changing the landscape a little bit. Yeah. I think you're going to see more tech hubs blow up. So there definitely needs to be funding around those things, incentivizing, in inventions.
Yep.
Right. Like I think that there's a gap in that, and I see more grant funding for actual inventions now. So, but I see it in other cities, because I look for grants.
So Lourdes, let's bring you in. What do you foresee in your
Well, I will
magic ball?
piggyback on what Justin said, and I have said this, and this is something that I'm trying to work with folks in other throughout the county in saying, how can we bring all the resources under one hub? Because I think that that's exactly what Justin is saying, right? To some degree, that we're all kind of scattered and everybody's doing their own thing and nobody's really collectively coming together or bringing people together. As a matter of fact, David joined us, and David and I had this conversation in Minneapolis about Tarrant County. That there was definitely a need. There is a need for this to be for this overarching umbrella hub that provides it all, and that where if you have an idea, if you are starting and you don't know exactly what the step 1, step 2, step 3, this is the umbrella. And I think Sparkyard is trying to do some of that, but it's not everybody knows Sparkyard, right? SBDC does some of it, but a lot of people, believe it or not, I talk to a lot of people and they'll say, I don't know what the SBDC is, or what do they do, or where are they? And when I tell them they're right here in Tarrant County College, they go, really?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So I think that there's definitely that disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could create that umbrella, then some of the things that you guys have touched upon, the introductions to the big business people, could happen all under one area, right? And I know that this has happened in other cities. Kansas City does a phenomenal job of this. Dallas even does a very good job with the deck. So I know that there's a blueprint on how to do that. We have to figure out as a county how to make it happen, because our innovation here is no different than innovation in other parts of the country. It's as good as it is. It's just that we are not harnessing it, and we're not embracing it, and we're not really offering people the one-stop shop where they can go and just shop for it all, whatever it is, whatever stage they are in their journey.
Lourdes, I feel like that's a tremendous segue just for me to just briefly talk about Startup Space, because that's literally what we do. We go into communities, we empower local government, municipalities, institutions to corral all those resources together for a one-stop shop. So talking about SBDC, SCORE, SBA, TCC, we want to kind of nurture that here in Tarrant County so that, hey, we're not confused. We're aware of what's available to us, so that it's easier. We can streamline that process. There's more funding that can be available, more entrepreneurs that can go into a program like this. So that is definitely possible. I think, like you said, the main step is kind of getting that ball rolling, getting everyone at the same table, because the whole silos of support, it doesn't help really anyone. If you guys are just doing that all, everyone has their own silo. Like, you have all different businesses, all different type of entrepreneurs. Let's put it all on the table, what's available to them, so they can maximize their effort within the community, bring in new dollars, bring in new jobs and things like that. Because of course, that's the bottom line with a lot of economic developers and cities and things like that, those metrics. But we really want to illustrate some new metrics for some of those folks that are just in an idea stage, folks that need seed money, folks that have, employees less than five people of employees. So different metrics like that to really illustrate the entrepreneur ecosystem is very important. That's what we love to do at Startup Space. But just to wrap up the panel here today, if you guys had any, final words to, any takeaways, what is something that a great thing Fort Worth can do? Someone that's listening, what's a takeaway that they can have? I'll just open up the floor for you.
You can expand it to Tarrant County.
Tarrant County, there we go. We'll expand to Tarrant County.
Start that hub that we were talking about earlier, chambers coming together. That's easy. They're doing events all the time. They can call one another and have just one big event where, business owners, new business owners that don't belong to any chamber can come and be a part of it. And, Start Space could be there and so on and so forth. So I think, much like a career fair, I think that, I think in terms of that. So I think that would be, that would fast track everyone, I think. Before you get the funding for the big space, before you get the blueprint to, on how to bring in have all those agencies come together.
Good deal, Brent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you have to start with some type of organized foundation before reaching out to the community and other small businesses. But at the same time, I'm sure there's a lot of big businesses out there that do want to work with smaller businesses, right? And really anybody that would be able to provide a good service or product. And so, once that organized foundation is created, I think being able to put together events, networking events, and getting that information out there, widely spread it out there too, to make it available for everyone, whether they're in the program or not, would be a great idea, because there's going to be people who may have never heard of the EVF program or the SBA, but they'll hear about these events and they'll be able to get more involved.
Huge.
Yeah, I would just encourage, if you are looking to try to chase after your dreams, then start with SBDC first and just kind of work from there. And I think there's, again, a lot of energy just in the Metroplex period as far as growth and a lot of potential. Absolutely. So if just as even as small companies, if we can find opportunities for us to figure out nimble ways to interact. And then we'll just keep chugging.
Absolutely. Good deal. Good deal. Lourdes, any final thoughts?
Just for you guys to each of you give a shout out to your business, because we're recording this. Obviously, we're going to give you this recording. We're going to share this recording. So Arlene, let's start with you.
Okay, I'm Arlene Peterson. My name of my business is Arlene's Executive Career and Business Consulting Services. You can contact me on Instagram at Arlene Speaks. You can book me for speaking at arlenespeaks.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Arlene P or /linkedin.com/n/speak Arlene. And I'm on Facebook, Arlene P Speaks.
There we go.
All right. Yep. And I'm Brent Bosquet, co-founder of IGH Health, Fire, and Safety. We're a full-service safety company that provides both services and products, anything from your basic CPR, AD, first aid training to healthcare trainings, along with fire equipment, sales, service, and maintenance, respiratory fit testing. We also provide consultation when it comes to OSHA regulations that any small company or business or individual would need. And you can find us at igh-hfs.com, or you can find us online, the big social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and IGH Health, Fire, and Safety.
Justin McLaughlin. I'm the founder of Xenia Roastery, and we are a specialty coffee roasting company. You can find us at www.Xenia Roastery. That's XENIA roastery.com. You can find us on social media at Xenia Roastery. And yeah, we just make real good coffee.
There we go.
Okay.
Give me a cup. Lourdes?
Yes. So Antoine, shout out to Startup Space.
Oh, yes, Startup Space. Antoine Long, Director of Sales at Startup Space. We work with economic development professionals, SBDCs, SBAs, scores from a local level all the way up to the state to just help them connect their resources to entrepreneurs. So doing that all across the country. We'd love to get a little bit deeper here into Texas. So if you're an economic developer, let's definitely chat. If you represent any of those institutions, love to chat with you guys as well. You can find us online, startupspace.us.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being our moderator today. I have a chat question. Where can students go to find out more information about the upcoming EVF program? Ms. Payne, that will be something that we're going to be rolling out the week of November 11th. Trust me, you will get more information that you will ever want to know about. I'll be sending it out to every faculty member at TCC, trying to get them to communicate it. Our folks at SBDC will get it as well. And then you guys will get it, because I told you, be careful what you wish for, because now you're part of a family. So now the family will help the next set of siblings that come along, right? And so my goal is to have you guys be our lifetime partners right here with the UVF program. And you guys were our firstborns. And I always tell my firstborn, when he complains, how come my brother got his cell phone at 13 and I had to wait till I was 16? Well, guess what? We were learning. We were learning with you. We were learning with you guys. You guys were great, great, great teachers. And we appreciate that. And we hope that you can come back and mentor and teach and support and help continue to build this inclusive ecosystem that we're trying to build here in Tarrant County.
Excellent.
So having said that, thank you to those of us that joined us online. Tamara, do I have any more questions from you? Nope. It looks like you are good. Thank you to those of you that joined us in person. And thank you to GEW Fort Worth, sponsored by Dell. Thank you to Dell for providing us the opportunity to sponsor this week here in Fort Worth for Global Entrepreneurship Week.
All right, thank you. Please, yes. Wish I had a card to give out to the folks. We're rebranding right now. So like, find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.